My name is Jay Penfil. I am the owner of Master Penfil's Martial Arts Academy in Wixom, Michigan. We've been here for 3 years now, and I began training the martial arts in 1972 under Mr. Bill Pogue. Trained in Isshinryu for 2 years at that time. I met Sensei James V. Marone Jr. with the Japan Karate Association and started training Shotokan at his dojo on Joy Road in Evergreen in Dearborn Heights. Trained there for approximately a year and a half, and then found a group of Tang Soo Do practitioners at the Jewish Community Center in West in Detroit at the time Kirsten Myers, trained under Master Harvey Schwartz. I trained with Master Schwartz for 8 years, went from the rank of white belt to secondary black belt in Tang Soo Do, and at that point found my way to the United States Tang Soo Do Moo Kwan Federation, directly under Grandmaster Huang Ki in the Tang Soo Do system. Became a direct student to Grandmaster C.I. Kim Chung-il in the U.S. Tang Soo Do Moo Kwan Federation. And I stayed in his training from 1983 to 2007, earning my 7th degree black belt with him. Started incorporating more of the Okinawan applications of the same katas and established what we call Tang Soo Jutsu. Jutsu being the earlier name of the martial art prior to becoming Do, as in Karate Do. Karate was called Karate Jutsu. By incorporating the older applications into the system, I've brought it back to that system of Jutsu versus the Do. In our school, we train very heavily on what's called bunkai. Bunkai means the application of technique. Whereas in most schools, you learn the kata, you learn the techniques, and you just make them look very nice. Most schools don't have a clear understanding what bunkai is. We focus greatly on the bunkai, the application of the technique, and make it very applicable for today's defensive situations in the street and so forth. In training in Isshinryu karate over the years, I've established a very deep understanding of bunkai, working with Sensei Peter Carbone in the last 3 years. That knowledge has grown even deeper as Sensei Carbone, my instructor, is a very high-level practitioner, training for the last 30-plus years directly in Okinawa with Sensei Nakamoto Kiichi in the Kobujutsu and under Sensei Ungiwezio in Isshinryu karate. He's taken his art to a very deep level that very few people have seen. So we bring that to head in this school, and we introduce that to all of our students through the weaponry, through the Kobujutsu, and through the Isshinryu karate that we teach here. In the earlier years of my training, I was taught, like most people in the United States, that if you want to learn weaponry, first you should earn your black belt in a weapon system, in a open hand system, empty hand system, and then from there you can then learn weaponry. From Sensei Carbone, I've learned that the Okinawan culture has things a little different. In the warrior class, the practitioners first started with the weapons training, and the empty hand training came from the weapons. So with that thought process in mind and training under the system passed down by Sensei Nakamoto Kiichi in Kobujutsu, we now teach weaponry to all of our students from the beginning, from white belt on up, starting with nunchaku, bo, tanfa, and sai as the first 4 primary weapons. There are 15 weapons in the system, and all that we teach, those are the first 4 primaries: the nunchaku, the bo, the tanfa, and the sai. In the earliest days of karate, back in Okinawa, the systems that were devised were not taught openly to mass community. They were taught privately from instructor to student. The original thought process was you had a guy that wanted to cut your head off with a sword as a samurai clan. You had a guy that would teach you how to defend yourself against that situation. And karate was taught very privately. Because of the need for defense of life at that time, it was very dangerous to allow somebody else to see what you were doing, what your intent was. So training was in secret, and when the kata were established, the inner meaning of the techniques was hidden from the presentation, so to speak. So if somebody with prying eyes were to be watching from a distance, they might see you training a technique, but they would not understand what your intent was, what your technique was truly for. This became what's called bunkai. Bunkai means application of technique. Based on different people's perception or what the attack might be, there's what we call henka. Henka means variation in technique. And then there's oyo, oyo meaning the reverse side of the technique. What is this person doing to me to cause me to respond in the first place? Is he grabbing me? Is he punching me? Is he kicking me? Is he striking me with a weapon? What is the weapon coming to me cause me to respond? The same technique in a given kata may have 5, 10, 15, 20 different meanings depending on what is happening to me at the given time I'm utilizing the technique. So Whereas, for instance, a inside-out block, as is called in most systems, might be used in a blocking movement with the inside of the arm, might also be a strike with the knuckle of the index finger or the thumb, might be a rotation of a person's arms, put them into a locking position and take them down. But that same movement will have many different applications or bunkai based on what is happening to us, what is our oyo that we're dealing with. These are things that we talk about very extensively in our school, and right from white belt. I want students to understand right from the beginning what the intent is of the movements that we're teaching. In my school, I teach everybody to become teachers. I want them to have the understanding that they always are going to learn the best when they're sharing with others what they have learned. If you're in line constantly just drilling to somebody's orders, barking out commands, you become a real good robot. But very few people in that kind of a class understand in depth what they're doing. They're mimicking a movement thousands of times, but there's not a lot of thought process going into it. So at early ranks, white belts with 2-3 months of training are put in front of other new students to share with them what they've been taught, with me watching and supervising. I want to listen to how they're articulating the movements, how they're demonstrating the motion. I want to see how they're making corrections and so forth, how they're explaining the techniques. Then I take them aside and I give them a little more in-depth understanding of what they're doing, send them back to do more instruction with the same person they're working with to develop their own understanding. When a person is teaching somebody else, they have to think about, how am I explaining this? They have to think about, how are my alignments in my technique? Are they done properly? It gives them a lot of responsibility in their training. So by teaching and working with each other, they become stronger in their own understanding, their own ability to perform. So I believe that everybody should work with each other as teachers. You establish a very definite rank hierarchy in the class that way, from white belts to orange belts to blue, purple, green, and so on up the ladder. There's a very definite distinction between the various ranks. When you go into a class, you should be able to strip off all the belts, mix everybody up, bring in a stranger with some understanding, have that person watch class and be able to put everybody in line based on their rank after seeing them perform. It shouldn't be so close that you can't tell who's who and what rank level. So by teaching this way, we're definitely establishing higher levels of training as people move forward, and it's a good way for the students to move forward and to train. I think the cross-training is crucial, but not too early in a person's training program. If a person is a lower belt and they are working with too many different systems, they become confused and they don't get any benefit. So for a student to establish a firm foundation in one system, then gradually start moving to other systems to learn with other people and to establish understanding of what different people do is important. For example, I'm a 7-3 black belt in Tongso. I'm also a black belt in Ishino Karate. I've got an extensive background in Shotokan and Morobu Hashitoru. All these systems have the same core forms that they work with, same kata, but each one has a different understanding of what the techniques are for. So by working with the different instructors over the years I've trained with and establishing understanding of what their foundation is, what their principles are, what their concepts are, it gives me a much deeper, much broader understanding of what technique is in general and how to use the body to make technique successful. So I think it's important to cross-train in different systems. In karate training, there's a great deal of jiu-jitsu, a joint locking system, for example. There's a lot of kyusho and tuite, kyusho meaning pressure point striking, tuite meaning joint locking. Very few people understand these things and how they work within a karate system. But by working with different people from different systems, you learn how different things are applied. In earning my black belt in Hakaru Jiu-Jitsu under Caden Shion Garner Train years ago, I finally learned how truly to use joint locking technique. Most karate people that do joint locks, we like to call it wrist bending. They're bending the person's arm, they're causing a little pressure, a little pain, but there's a very finite science to how to control the joint properly. And until I started training with Sensei Train, I did not understand that, as most people don't that I see in training in martial arts, in karate systems, I should say. So it's important to understand the science of the movements from somebody who is an expert in that area.